I accidentally put it on loop. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the UFC 299 preview. We've got a fantastic weekend. The fights this weekend: Joshua Ngannou, PFL Europe, Paris going down right now. We have UFC 299. We are stacked. This is the few weekends that we get throughout the whole year where we're thinking, wow, we are spoiled for choice. Oscar, it's absolutely brilliant. How's it going over there in America?
It's going great. And this is a massive upgrade from last Saturday's offerings of UFC Vegas 87 Rosenstrike versus Gaziv. I just think that that main event was a little lackluster and it didn't really deliver. I say we touch on that before we go right into the good stuff. UFC 299, Oliveira versus O'Malley 2, and Joshua Ngannou.
Absolutely agree. Let's talk about it. The main event, as you mentioned, I always say I always think to myself when I see a heavyweight headliner, I feel like it can go either of two ways. Either we're going to get a knockout really early, or we're going to have a fight similar like this. And it's been happening. Well, I feel like most of the time, a lot of the case, if a lot of heavyweight headliners, it's been happening like this. I'm not saying the UFC should put them in headlines anymore, but I would rather them in a 3-round fight. Needless to say, Rosenstrike is back in the win column. He desperately needed this win. And Shamil Gaziev, you talked about it before we went on the air, probably should not have been in this spotlight. And he didn't look great, did he?
Yeah, he really folded after he got his nose broken. He also had his vision impaired by the powerful punches coming from Jairzinho, who relied on his jab. This is a guy that has had really low volume in previous fights, but in this fight, he had a higher pace and he looked as good as ever out there. Shamil, the one thing you can credit him for is not toppling over after eating some of those shots from Jairzinho, who's shown to have one punch knockout power. But yeah, aside from that, there was some major future contenders competing on this card. Guys like Steve Erceg, Umar Nurmagomedov, and Makayev. And Erceg, for me, shined the most out of those guys. Of course, he had Umar with that early scare in that fight, but after that, he dominated rounds 2 and 3 with ease. And Makayev was looking like he was in position to fight for the title, possibly. But I just think a fight that close and just that poor performance, I don't think you get rewarded with that. So who knows what's going to happen in the flyweight division. And also, we had Tyson Pedro retiring after Petrino just let him know that he's a new kid on the block, and his days of being a prospect are long over.
Yeah, it's a shame. I feel like we've been watching Tyson Pedro for a long time now. I feel like he's been in the UFC. He's had 11 fights inside the UFC. He came into the UFC when he was like 4-0. Once upon a time, was a prospect, beat some good guys. You had a good, decent run, but eventually your time has come to it comes to a day, and his one has came to the end. And it's a shame to see him go. And it was quite emotional watching the post fight press conference. Obviously, he's getting emotional talking about the financial difficulties and stuff like that. Stuff like that you just never want to see. You just never want to see it. So unfortunate ending for himself, but he's going to go on to do some things with his family and stuff like that. So you got to respect the decision. Who knows? You never know. It might not be the end, but we'll see how it happens. I've seen he got released from the roster, so most likely the end. So, but yeah, unfortunate. The card wasn't too great. Obviously, the main event. Yeah, it was disappointing, but it is what it is. Steve Erceg, as you talked about, shined, looked fantastic. But that was pretty much it, really. You talked about it. We have one card like this one week. The next week, we are absolutely spoiled. It's incredible. UFC 299 goes down. But before that, we'll just talk quickly about Joshua versus Ngannou. Obviously, we're going to have some sort of interest in it. Obviously, Francis Ngannou, former UFC heavyweight champion of the world. How do you see this fight going down? Obviously, Anthony Joshua, a traditional boxer. That's what Ngannou wanted to start his career as a boxer from a young age as well. But Joshua went down this route, starting off with. Ngannou made his name, then transitioned. Joshua had so many amateur fights, had a fantastic career in amateur scene, had a fantastic career in the professional scene as well. Former heavyweight champion of the world. How do you see this fight going down? Does Ngannou upset the odds, or do we see Joshua cruise to a victory, which is like probably most likely to happen? A lot of people have predicted.
my rating of Francis Ngannou as a boxer significantly increased after his performance against Tyson Fury. A fight that I thought he won. That was the fight where he scored a knockdown. He was able to kind of intimidate Fury at some points in that fight, and I felt like he was the guy who just a little bit more landed the more meaningful punches. Joshua, on the other hand, this guy used to be heavyweight champion of the world. Then he gets knocked out by Andy Ruiz, and everybody doubts him. They doubt his durability, and then he wins the rematch, and he's gone on to win a lot of good fights. Of course, fell fell to Usyk twice, did not succeed there, but Ngannou is a different fighter. But at the end of the day, I have to question: will Joshua be able to eat a clean shot from Francis Ngannou like Tyson Fury did? I'm not sure. And we're looking at a guy in Joshua who's a 4-1 favorite in this fight. I'm not going to take the safe pick here. I think Francis Ngannou might be able to conjure up some magic again with that power, just like he did against Fury. I don't feel comfortable downing Francis Ngannou after what he did against Tyson Fury. This is a guy that could potentially be making improvements. So I have to go with Francis Ngannou. Is it kind of a favoritism pick because he's the MMA guy? Sure, but if he wins, I'm going to be celebrating big time.
Absolutely. I'll go with Joshua. He's British. I just think he's going to have too many tools in the box for Francis Ngannou. I feel like Joshua can do it all. He can box a little bit. Obviously, he's not the best boxer when he comes up against like Alexander Usyk or Tyson Fury, but against someone who I would say is not a novice, but in terms of experience compared to each other, Joshua has vastly more experience, obviously, than Francis Ngannou, and on paper should get the job done. That's how I'm looking at it on paper, but we never know in this combat sport world. It's absolutely crazy. Ngannou could go out there and knock him out in the first 30 seconds. You don't know. You don't know that sort of power that he has. It's very, very, not very, very likely, should we say? So yeah, the pick is Anthony Joshua. If he doesn't get caught clean, I feel like he cruises to victory. Like I mentioned, he can box. He hits very hard, and I feel like stylistically he should win this one. I think it's a good matchup for himself. Ngannou's obviously going to look for that knockout, like he does in most of his career. He's had a taster of 10 rounds, and he mentioned in the press conference this week that he did get tired. And I feel like, yet again, we might see a late stoppage for Anthony Joshua. That's my pick.
Wow, that would be a real statement because Ngannou is known for his chin, and Fury could not put him away. And that was Ngannou's debut.
Yeah, the differences I see with Fury and Joshua is Fury. I feel like he's just not a hard hitter, and I feel like this is the difference with Joshua. Joshua has that that spark in his right hand that if he touches you, he can put your lights out as well. And I feel like this is the difference in matchups that we're going to see. So it's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping Joshua gets it done. But if Francis gets it done, it's a fantastic story. And I should be rooting for him as an MMA guy, but I can't stop, going with these British guys. He's English, and I can't help but root for him. But if he gets the job done, man, it's a hell of a story. And he's going to have another big payday, and the PFL will be kicking himself in the feet yet again. So, yeah, absolutely looking forward to it. A fantastic fight. We also got Joseph Parker and Zhang Zhang. Phenomenal fight in the co-main event. Zhang is absolutely humongous. Big guy. Joseph Parker's got a real big test on his hands. And if he wins this one, potentially go on to challenge Anthony Joshua maybe for a title down the line against his good friend Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk in a few months' time. But yeah, that's pretty much that we have going on this weekend. But we want to talk about the all-important one. That's obviously UFC 299. That's going down this weekend. That's Friday. Joshua versus Ngannou. That's Friday. Today we've got PFL Europe that's literally going on right now. So we'll skip that one out because everyone's going to figure out the results anyway. But yeah, hopefully it's a good fight. Cedric Doumbé in the main event. He's very, very popular over there in France against a guy who is known as Baki, who's also very popular in France as well. So that's going to be a great one. UFC 299 is on the screen. As you can see, Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Chito Vera in the main event, a rematch. Once upon a time, they did fight. Chito Vera got the better of his adversary, Sean O'Malley. We might say controversial fashion, early stoppage, did the nerve, effective performance. That's what we're going to talk about. They run it again. Is it the same outcome, or does Sean O'Malley have clearly too much for Chito Vera, striking wise? We've seen I'd say a good improvement from Sean O'Malley and his takedown defense and his awareness, on the cage and stuff like that. Is Sean O'Malley going to retain his belt, Oscar? What was your pick?
I think he will retain his belt. I think the first fight was a situation that is uncommon in MMA where a guy gets kicked right in the perennial nerve in the leg and it just shut down, his leg. I don't think Sean O'Malley is going to get hit in the same spot again. I think this time he's going to play it a little safe. I think he's going to be conservative early on. And for Marlon Vera, he's also a guy that's a big conservative. He likes to counter strike guys. So I actually think this fight could actually start off really slow. Aljamain Sterling, who fought Sean O'Malley in his last fight, he predicts that this will be a very boring fight. And that's a possibility. But at the end of the day, I do think Marlon Vera will realize that he's down some rounds, and I think he's going to be a little aggressive later on. And that's going to allow for Sugar Sean O'Malley to counter-strike him as he does. That's how he beat Aljamain Sterling. He knocked him out after Sterling got a little overzealous and overextended on a punch. So I do think Sugar Sean O'Malley fights at a higher pace. He's got more volume on his side. I do think that the fact that this is 5 rounds could be concerning for O'Malley. He's never gone 5 rounds. Marlon Vera has gone 5 rounds in the past, and he's done it quite comfortably. So there could be a situation where we see Marlon Vera take over late in this fight because, as I pointed out, he does start slow in order to allow himself to really take over later on. So Sugar Sean O'Malley is in for a challenge. Don't get me wrong, but I do think that he is the better striker in this fight. And when it comes to grappling, both guys are not really looking for takedowns in their fights usually. But if Vera were to go for a takedown, I do think that O'Malley can stuff it. He was able to stuff Aljamain Sterling's takedown. So I'm going to have to go with Sugar Sean to win this fight by unanimous decision.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Potentially, and even like a stoppage. Sean O'Malley's been on fire as of late, knocking out Sean. I'm not sure about to say Sean, knocking out Sean O'Malley. How can Sean O'Malley knock out himself? But knocking out Aljamain Sterling. He's looking good. A fantastic superstar that the UFC have on their hands. He's been brought up through the Contender Series, brought up through the UFC. They've matchmaked him smartly, shall we say? Until obviously he got to Peter Yan, a close fight, could have went either way. Who knows? But I think we've seen a great improvement from his takedown defense and against the cage. And I feel like this is what we're going to see. Maybe I don't know. I feel like we're going to see Sean O'Malley control the distance, pick away at Marlon Chito Vera, but Marlon Chito Vera every now and then will land big because that's what he does. He will land big, and we might see a cut a few on Sean O'Malley, but I think he's going to dictate the range, dictate where the fight goes, and the pace as well. That's what he's really good at, dictating the pace, and he likes controlling it at his pace. He's always on the front foot. He likes to fight off the back foot too, and we've seen his counter against Sterling. Yeah, the pick is Sean O'Malley with confidence. Completely agree. Not too sure how it goes. I think maybe a KO would be likely. Obviously, Sean O'Malley, and I don't know when. Early, I'm not sure. Chito Vera does get, he is a hittable guy. I would say Chito Vera. But we're going to see how it goes. But I would back Sean O'Malley maybe a 4th or 5th round stoppage. But decision is probably most likely.
That would be a jaw dropper because Marlon Vera, he is in second place for most fights without getting knocked down in UFC history. He's never even gotten knocked down, never been submitted either. So that would be a huge statement for Sugar Sean to do that. So, and that's what he's saying that he's going to do. So if he were to pull that off, that would be a massive statement, and that would really elevate my opinion of his power because we've seen in the past he can't necessarily put guys out with one shot before, like the Chris Moutinho fight. That was a fight where he was unable to put him away until Herb Dean saved him. The Petr Yan fight, and we'll talk about Petr Yan later. But speaking of, I do think that Petr Yan won the fight, just for the record. So,
yeah.
But we'll talk about Petr later. But co-main event time.
Yeah, absolutely. Dustin Poirier takes on Benoit St. Dennis. Fantastic fight in the co-main event. I'm looking forward I'm just happy to see Dustin Poirier back in action. He is, he's an A-class fighter. I love watching him fight. He's been around the UFC for a very long time. Obviously, off the back of that Justin Gaethje knockout loss, which was wild. Head kick knockout. Justin Gaethje gets the BMF belt. Fantastic scenes. That was 7 months ago. It feels like an age ago. But now he returns against a surgeon French fighter in Benoit St. Dennis. He's looking to claim his biggest scalp in his career after knocking out Matt Frivola in his last fight. My head kick was fantastic as well. Now he's got the biggest stage, the biggest opportunity of his career. Does he grasp it with both hands and succeed against Dustin Poirier, who's a former title challenger, former interim champion, former he fought Justin Gaethje. Does he beat Dustin Poirier? Does Dustin Poirier return back to winning ways once again?
I think that Benoit Saint-Denis being such a big favorite here, I think it's the wrong move by the betting community. A lot of people are thinking that Benoit Saint-Denis is the younger guy. He's the guy with less miles on him. But at the end of the day, I'm not 100% sure how he looks in a fight that is a little extended, a fight where he is really challenged. The only time we really saw that was his UFC debut. It was up at welterweight, so you can kind of give him a pass. He fought Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos. Dos Santos has knocked out Sean Strickland before. He's a dangerous guy. And he put a serious beating on Saint-Denis. It was like really bad. So bad that the referee that didn't stop the fight was immediately banned from all future UFC fights. That's how bad the beating was. And that showed to me that Benoit Saint-Denis has no quit in him. He's a guy that is actually willing to die in there. And that comes from the fact that the guy was a paratrooper in France. The guy has seen some stuff. So I do think that this is a guy that cannot really be broken, but there will be a point where his body can be broken. And I think Dustin Poirier may be capable of doing that. Dustin Poirier does have championship experience. He's got 5-round experience. And Benoit Saint-Denis fights at an insane pace. That's how he breaks his opponents. That's how he beat Ismael Bonfim, who was undefeated at the time. That's how he beat Thiago Moises, who's Dustin Poirier's teammate. He was able to break him with a crazy pace and with his grappling. And I do think that there will be maybe a round or two in this fight where we see Benoit Saint-Denis get a takedown and smash Poirier from on top. I think the Michael Chandler fight, the Charles Oliveira fight, the Habib fight, those are examples of Poirier just getting really manhandled on the ground. But Poirier's got that dog in him, and I do think that he's a better boxer than Benoit Saint-Denis. And I do think that eventually Saint-Denis, his pace might lower a bit, and that's when Poirier starts to smell blood in the water, and he just unleashes a hellacious combination on the feet. And I think we see a standing TKO. I'll say round 4. And but this is all assuming that Dustin Poirier is in good form. There could be a situation where we see a 35-year-old Dustin Poirier show up, maybe not as durable, maybe with not the same amount of desire in the training camp. That's a possibility. But Poirier is in prime form. We could see some real doubters get proven wrong here.
Absolutely agree. It's a close fight to call. Obviously, Benoit has been on the form of his life as of late. As I talked about, he's looking great. But the biggest testament is coming up against Dustin Poirier, and I just feel like it's too much of a test. It's too big. Dustin Poirier's been around the game. He's been around the block. He's been here for a while now inside the UFC. So yeah, I'm picking Dustin Poirier. By decision. I'm going to go with decision. I don't think maybe Poirier is going to get him out there. It's going to be a tough fight. I'm looking forward to it. In the co-main event, we are spoiled for choice. Actually, I've just seen there it's 5 rounds. So maybe I will change that to a finish late on. Dustin Poirier, though, I'm predicting he gets the job done and gets his 30th win in his career. Looking forward to it. The co-main event is absolutely fantastic. But the next one as well, if you're a UK fan or if you're from the UK, you're from England, your eyes are lighting up right now. The moment that we've all been waiting for is finally happening. That's Michael Page finally inside the UFC. I feel like this is something that we've always been thinking about for a few years now. How would Michael Page do in the UFC? How would he get on at the top 10 in the world at the UFC? And we're going to find out. I feel like this is a fantastic fight to ease him into the UFC against Kevin Holland. Stylistically, this is a fantastic fight. This is a crowd pleaser, an entertainer. I feel like this is where we're going to get the action. We're going to get entertainment from start to finish. Michael Page, it's his UFC debut. When Bellator fighters come over to the UFC, look at Michael Chandler. When he came on, he had a spectacular debut. And that's exactly what I'm predicting here. Michael Page having a spectacular debut and knocking out the Trailblazer. Let's go.
Wow, that would be a major statement. And one thing to note here, this fight will be on Michael Venom Page's 37th birthday. 37. And I don't really like to hear that, to be honest, because we've seen guys at 35 go on the decline, and Kevin Holland still early 30s. And I do think that that's going to be a factor in this fight. Michael Venom Page also, he's coming off of a bit of a layoff here. He had that little free agency stint. And prior to that, sure, he was able to get that TKO early on with just that brutal leg injury he caused. And part of that, he gets beat up by Mike Perry in bare knuckle boxing. That is different, but there was a point where he got dropped in that fight. And I do think that Kevin Holland hits just as hard as Mike Perry, if not harder. Like, I used to be a middleweight, and he went on a 5-fight winning streak in around 7 months. It was in 2020. So Kevin Holland, to me, is very proven in the UFC. Michael Venom Page, I hate to say it, but the guy was kind of a can crusher in Bellator. They gave him some very easy matchups. He did have some pretty solid performances, like the Lima fight that he won by decision when they rematched. But in the first fight, you see him get caught with that leg kick, and then he just gets put out, really. And we've never seen that happen to Kevin Holland, him getting knocked out like that. So I do think the durability is on Kevin's side. The less miles on him, I think, might be on the Kevin Holland side. And if we see some grappling, I do think Kevin Holland is a better grappler. He was able to submit Michael Chiesa, submitted Tim Means. His jiu-jitsu is not bad. They're sure if he gets taken down, it's not going to be good for him. But Page is not a wrestler. He's not going to try to wrestle. So I do think that Kevin Holland has more tools on his side. And ultimately, I think he gets a third-round knockout here and makes a real statement. Because that's what he feels he has to do, because he looks at Michael Page as an outsider. So I think he's really gonna shut down the MVP hype, unfortunately.
No, this is MVP we're talking about. It's not going to happen. That's the UFC. That's the told you so fight of the week. That's where it's going to be. High stakes here. High stakes. I love it. But yeah, completely agree though. That definitely could happen. Michael Page does have a questionable chin. He obviously got absolutely starched against Lima, but that was some time ago. I think he's got wiser since then. I know he lost against Logan Storley as well, in where he just got out grappled, simply just got out grappled, outworked by Logan Storley, who is a fantastic fighter. Interesting to see where he moves next, or whatever happens with him next. But yeah, Michael Page versus Kevin Holland. I feel like that could have been harder debuts. Kevin Holland's been around the block. He's lost to some fantastic guys. Why I'm picking Michael Page, I'm looking at this matchup as a similar matchup as when Kevin Holland faced Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Very, very similar style as Michael Page and Wonderboy. They've trained together. So that's why I'm picking Michael Page. I think he's going to have it's going to be quite a similar fight. And that's why I feel like Michael Page is going to knock out Kevin Holland in his UFC debut. And from there, he's just going to go on to cool everyone out, and he's going to get a top 5, top 10 opponent. And this is it. This is the start of the MVP era. And then he's going to fight Leon Edwards in UFC Manchester whenever. It's going to be great.
That's actually a real possibility, because Kevin Holland is ranked, if I'm not mistaken. And Leon Edwards, the Bilal Muhammad fight is not a guarantee. They looked for 3 guys outside of Bilal Muhammad for 300. Even Hamzat, who's not even in the division. So that's how much they want to give Bilal a title shot.
Yeah, they don't want to give that guy a title shot. He's yeah, he's like he's a down on the pecking order and he's number one contender. So it's funny. But
Ooh,
next one is a great one at 170 pounds as well. Is Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. Stylistically, another fantastic fight. If you're looking at this, this is a fan's dream. Jack Della Maddalena, obviously the prospect coming up, rising prospect coming off a split decision against Kevin Holland, by the way, a split decision in a fight that where he was made worked. He had to work for that split decision. Some holes I think were maybe exposed in that fight from Jack Della Maddalena, and I'm not talking about the shape of his nose. That's always looking like an L shape. But I feel like the wrestling as well. I feel like there was a little bit of not exposure, but I feel like there's some weaknesses. And Gilbert Burns, what is he great at, Oscar? He is a
he's
fantastic
great at
grappler,
grappling.
and that's why I'm picking Gilbert Burns by submission.
Yeah, I have to agree with Gilbert Burns. And what's crazy, Gilbert Burns is the underdog in this fight. I know he's coming off a year layoff. He was injured in that, and also the guy's 37. So I just talked about MVP being 37 in the last fight, but here's the difference: he has a very, very clear advantage in this fight. He can take the guy down, and
Yeah,
Jack Della Maddalena fought Basil Hafez, who is not exactly a world beater, and he was able to get takedowns in that fight. But to be fair, that was based on Della Maddalena's guillotine attempts. He kept on going for a guillotine for whatever reason, and he got himself caught on bottom. But Gilbert Burns is very physically strong, and it's not like the guy is out of his element on the feet. He's a dangerous guy on the feet. He's knocked guys out before. And I think this is a fight where Gilbert Burns can comfortably strike with Della Maddalena on the feet. But don't get me wrong, if we do see this strictly on the feet, I do think Jack Della Maddalena will knock him out, but that's not going to be the case. Gilbert Burns, he's a pretty good wrestler. You see that Jorge Masvidal fight, he throws him around. And I think he can do something similar to Della Maddalena. But we saw in the Wonder Boy fight and Olivier Aubin Mercy fights like that where Gilbert Burns is not concerned with getting a finish. He's just concerned with winning and avoiding the guy getting up and beating him up. So I think Gilbert Burns plays it safe, stays in guard or in half guard, and just wins a safe decision using his wrestling here.
yeah. I think like we got a poke as well. If you look at Gilbert Burns' last three losses, there's no shame in them, absolutely whatsoever. We're talking about Bilal Muhammad, Hamzat Chimaev, and Kamaru Usman. Like some of the best in the world. Bilal Muhammad, number one contender. Hamzat Chimaev, one of the best prospects in the game. Kamaru Usman, that was for a championship belt. He lost, but ultimately, he fought for a belt. I think that's the main thing to come out of that. He's beat some great guys, as you mentioned, Jorge Masvidal, Neil Magny, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Yeah, I think the confidence myself on Gilbert Burns is very, very high. I feel like he could take the fight to the ground and submit him very, very quickly, if not at the end. And I feel like on the feet as well, he would definitely hold himself. He has that power, man. He has that Brazilian power. We've seen it time and time over again. But that fight is a fantastic fight. I'm looking forward to it. My pick is Gilbert Burns submission. But we got another one to talk about, another fantastic fight. That's Peter Yan versus Yadong Song. Peter Yan, former champion of the world, lost his belt to Aljamain Sterling and all that malarkey. Then lost against Aljamain Sterling again. Obviously in his last fight, I believe it was against Sean O'Malley. He lost. Obviously it was by split. Marab, sorry, lost against split decision, then lost against Marab, and now he fights Yadong Song. And I've got to pick the former champion here. I've got to pick Peter Yan. I still have confidence that there is still some life in Peter Yan. And I feel like I've seen that anyway. Even the Marab fight, he got dominated in that Marab fight, but he just kept on getting up. He getting up. He keep on getting up, and I feel like there is still fight in the old dog, the former champion. And I think he beats Yadong Song. And I think this is a great matchup for Peter Yan because I feel like Yadong Song's gonna want to strike. So I feel like there is no potential threat of a takedown, or at least not as much as the people that he's fought in the past. So yeah, I'm picking Peter Yan. and I'm going with decision. I don't think there's going to be a knockout in this one. Not sure. I don't think there's going to be a finish, and I'm picking Peter Yan. I think he's going to return back to winning ways.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Peter Yan is definitely in a tough stretch. If you told me he would be on this stretch a couple of years ago, I would not have believed you. There was actually a conversation at one point where people were talking about Peter Yan as one of the most skilled fighters on the planet. And maybe those skills are not what they were because the confidence may not exactly be there at this point. Song Yadong is improving with every fight. In his last fight, he showed off that he can dominate guys on the ground if he needs to. Peter Yan, I don't think will allow him to do that, and I actually think Peter Yan will be the one to wrestle if it happens at all. But Song Yadong does have good takedown defense on the feet. It's looking like Peter Yan is going to lose round one, if you ask me. That's what he tends to do. His style is made for 5 rounds, similar to that of Chito Vera, kind of takes round one off. And Song Yadong is a guy that is willing to throw bombs the whole time. So I think in rounds 2 and 3, I think Peter Yan picks up the pace a little bit and finds his timing. And I think he outboxes Song Yadong because ultimately I do think these guys are going to be boxing a lot in this fight. So in that realm, I have to favor Peter Yan. He's one of the best boxers in the UFC still. And you have to talk about how the Sugar Sean fight, questionable. The Aljamain Sterling losses, questionable. The Merab fight, that was not questionable. But that was a fight where he got out grappled, really. And I don't think Song Yadong could do that. So this is a better stylistic matchup for Peter Yan. And I think he bounces back.
Yes, completely agree. Love that fight at bantamweight, but the next one as well is a fantastic one at heavyweight. Let's bear in mind this one's on the prelim, stated at Tapology, and it's crazy between two.
It's on the main card, opening the main card.
Okay, that's brilliant. Yeah. Thank God for that because this is a fantastic fight. So what a way to kick off the main card. Curtis Blades versus Jaltin or Maida. I always said to myself, I still think Curtis Blades could be one of the best in the world at heavyweight. I always thought that. I feel like he's got the tools, he's got the ability to be one of the best, if not maybe the champion. The thing that lets him down is the chin. He gets cracked over and over again. And I'm looking at this fight and I'm thinking stylistically, what threat could Jolton Almeida give to him that I feel like Curtis won't be able to handle? And obviously, I feel like it's grappling versus grappling. So I look at the stand-up. Who do I think is better at stand-up? And I'm siding with Jolton Almeida. And I feel like this is going to be a close fight on the feet. The grappling, though, I feel like is a very, very superior to Jolton Almeida. I don't know. I don't know how this fight is going to go, but I'm picking the Brazilian. But I still think there is something there with Curtis Blades. I still think he's could be one of the best in the world. He's still quite young for a heavyweight. I feel like there is a lot to come from Curtis Blades. And who knows? This could be a fight that just shoots him back up to the rankings, rejuvenates everything. And who knows? Who knows what happens? But I'm picking with Jaume Almeida. I feel like what we've seen him from recently has been spectacular. So the pick is Jaume Almeida, the Brazilian. Oscar, I feel like with them raised eyebrows, you're going with Curtis Blades.
Yeah, I think to say that Jaltin has better striking, I think a bit outlandish. Jaltin has never really looked too comfortable striking. His striking is simply to set up his takedowns. He likes to throw that front kick, maybe a jab here and there, but it's all about shooting for that takedown. And I do believe that when it comes to his offensive grappling, it's simply some of the best we've seen at heavyweight. And I think this guy is a light heavyweight in disguise. This guy debuted at light heavyweight, but guys were ducking him. So he goes to heavyweight and he fights these easy matchups and dominates them. But he went past the easy matchups, took on guys like Rosenstrike, like Derek Lewis, and he had his way with them. I don't think he can have his way with Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades, I don't think he's going to allow any takedowns. He's 100% the bigger guy, a legitimate heavyweight. And on the feet, we know he has some serious power himself. A lot of people don't talk about this, but there's been some fights where he doesn't even shoot for a takedown. He just knocks a guy out on the feet like he did with Chris Dawkins. You can also point at the Junior Dos Santos fight. No takedowns in that fight. He just hits him with a big overhand and clubs him until the referee pulls him off. I think he does the same thing to Jalton Almeida. I think Jalton Almeida will be reminded that these heavyweights have a different kind of power. And I think we're going to see Jalton fail at some takedowns. And I think it might tire him a little bit in round two. I think Curtis Blades unleashes some power on him. Also, in the Pavlovich fight, he hit Pavlovich with a big shot, too. Pavlovich was a bit stunned there for a second. So I think Curtis Blades has underrated striking. It's just we've seen him fight these one hitter quitter guys like Pavlovich, Ngannou, Lewis. Those are the three guys to knock him out. Outside of that, he's doing well. So I think he's going to remind people why he should not be the underdog against Jalton.
Yeah, you might have swayed me there, Mr. Silva. Everything you said is pretty much correct. I agree. I'll have to change the pick. Like I said,
There
I
we
feel like
go.
still be, a champion, if not, up there. I think he's got all the talent, all the ability. A tough fight, and I feel like what you said about Almeida, being a true light heavyweight, and I feel like maybe this could be the harsh reality check, potentially get knocked out against Cody Blades. Then.
Yeah, Curtis Blades is capable of doing it, as I stated. Let's move on to the next prelim. These prelims are great. There's like three fights on this that could be main events in the Apex easily.
Absolutely. If they're a heavyweight, they're guaranteed main event and the Apex.
Yeah.
Anyway, next one. I was going to call her Caitlin Chicagian, but her name has changed, and I'm going to try and pronounce it. Caitlin Saramira. Yeah. Anyway, Caitlin is taking on Sarah Marner. There we go. Caitlin's taking on Macy Barber. Once upon a time, Macy Barber was a prospect coming up on the show. Now she's getting a chance to fight Caitlin at obviously bantamweight, and she's not returned for a while. As you can see there, her last fight was in Minotaur Floyd in 2022. I'm trying to think of the month. Completely slipped my head. I can't even think of the month now. The 10th month of that year. And she says she's been away for a while. Does she return back to action? Does she beat Macy Barber, who's, string a few wins of herself as of late? As you can see there, she's on a 5-fight winning streak. Recently beat Amanda Hebas. Who wins in this one, Oscar? It's quite a tough one to call because we don't know how Caitlin's going to look. And obviously, Macy Barber, she's been up and down in her career. Obviously, other than them two losses to Roxanne Modafferi, Alexa Grasso, who's champion now, she's looked all right.
This is a tricky fight because you pointed out Caitlin Sturmanara, big layoff, hasn't fought since October of 2022. And in that fight, she looked pretty good. She actually won at least a round of that fight against Manon Fiorot. And she's somebody that's really good at winning decision fights. It's only when she fights the likes of Jessica Andrade or Valentina Shevchenko, where she fights somebody that's very physically overpowering, that she can lose fights like that. And that might be the case here against Macy Barber. But you have to look at the shortcomings of Macy Barber. She wins a robbery decision against Miranda Maverick. I thought she clearly lost that fight. The Andrea Lee fight, I thought she lost. That was a fight where she got taken down. Caitlin usually doesn't go for takedowns. She did when she fought Antonina Shevchenko, but I think Barber is definitely ahead of Shevchenko in that department. But when it comes to pitter-patter boxing, Caitlin is like the queen of it. She stays on the outside. She throws that volume. She will never overextend herself. She's not going to throw these reckless hooks. And I think this is going to be a split decision. And I have to go with the underdog, Caitlin Shukagian, with her experience advantage here. I'm going to have to side with her just for that. The experience and the fact that she's going to play it safe and try to outbox Barber from the outside.
Yeah, as we mentioned, we don't know how she's going to look. She's been away for a while. She mentioned some unfortunate things while she was away, and now she's back to kind of put her mind back on fighting. So it's good to see her back. Once a former title challenger, now she looked to beat Macy Barber prospects, and I agree as well. My pick is also Caitlin. See how it goes down this weekend. We'll find out. Next one. Matthias Gamrot versus Rafael dos Anjos. Wow, what a fight. You talked about some fights on this prelim card that could main event, fight night in Apex. And this is one of them. A fantastic fight that will go down at lightweight. It's good to see Rafael dos Anjos, back in he's flipping around, going to lightweight. Just had a fight at welterweight, but the whole time he stayed ranked to lightweight. It's crazy. But this one, obviously, RDA, 39 years old. almost 40. You talked about MVP, 37 years old earlier on. If you look at Matthias Gamrot, he's 32, just 33, sorry, just turned, and he's a minus 355, moderate favorite according to Tapology. And I've got to feel like that's justified. I think Matthias Gamrot is a fantastic fighter. His only losses are close, and some really good guys. I think he's got all the skill sets to be able to control the fight against RDA, and I feel like he'll not cruise. I feel like he'll get some sticky positions at times in the fight, but I feel like he's going to win this one. Not comfortably, but I feel like he's going to take it. Maybe a 29-28 scorecard. That's what I'm looking at, and I'm picking Matthias Gamrot. He's younger. I feel like he's going to be better on the feet, wrestling exchanges. The only danger he'll get is if RDA is on top and he's the one offensively grappling. But if Matthias Gamrot can stop that, he wins easily.
Yeah, Gamrot for me is one of the best scramblers in all of MMA. He was able to out scramble Arman Sarukian, win a decision against him. And Dos Santos is a guy that he said these words. He said, "I will never go back to lightweight before the Luque fight." I was before the Luque fight. The Luque fight, he has to wrestle with the guy in Luque who's not even a wrestler, but the fact that he's this big welterweight, he can just throw him around. He takes him down 8 times. That loss was so defeating that he accepts it and just goes back to lightweight where he belongs. But at the end of the day, that shows you that these weight cuts are very harsh to RDA. And Gamrot is a guy that used to be a featherweight. He's fighting up at lightweight, so he's not killing himself with the weight cutting like Dos Anjos is. So I think that alone is definitely an advantage for Gamrot, not having to cut that weight. And now he's going to be able to out wrestle Dos Anjos without a doubt. Dos Anjos, I don't think he's the talent he used to be. Of course, he's definitely slowing down. And on the feet, I do think he's better than Gamrot. There is no doubt about it. But Gamrot will get these takedowns quite easily, if you ask me, because Dos Anjos getting out grappled by Luque. I know Luque is a bigger guy, but it's not a good look at all. Luque has never done that to anybody, so for him to do it now, I don't like the look of that. And Dos Anjos desperately going down in weight, I don't like it either. So Gamrot, in my opinion, is one of the best fighters in the division. He's going to prove it again.
Absolutely agree. The rest of the prelims are absolutely stacked as well. Pedro Munoz versus Kyler Phillips, Michelle Pereira versus Michelle Olashashek, Felipe Lins versus Ian Kutalaba. A fantastic debutant making his debut. Robelis, there's Pagni. That's not good. That's Pena. All right, that's where we go. Against Josh Brazarian. CJ Vigera, sorry, stepping in short notice. He takes on Azu Alambiev. Joanne Wood versus Mariah Moros. Good fight card. I'm looking forward to it. The next one to talk about, Pedro Munoz versus Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips, he was looking great. Now he takes on, I feel like everyone's got to take this guy on to move up in the division. There's always that one fighter that you need to fight to get up there. The welterweight division have it. He's Neil Magny. And I feel like the bantamweight division is Pedro Munoz. If you beat him, you move up. If you don't beat him, you don't move up. Does Kyler Phillips beat Pedro Munoz and move up to the top 10?
Yeah, this is a good fight for Kyler Phillips. This is another scenario where we're looking at an aging guy in Pedro Munoz. And Kyler Phillips is a guy that is finally getting a taste at top 15 guys. And I think this is a fight, just 3 rounds where he can really shine. Kyler Phillips has a win over Song Yadong, believe it or not. This guy is so quick. He's so good with his mobility. I don't think Pedro Munoz can land those big hooks that he usually lands. What he's going to do, he's going to look for that calf kick. And I just don't think that Kyler Phillips is going to be there to be hit often. And I think he's just going to style on Pedro Munoz in this fight. And also, when it comes to wrestling, Kyler Phillips is not too bad either. He could get some takedowns if he wanted them. So, yeah, for Pedro Munoz, this is not a fight like the Chris Gutierrez fight where he's going to be able to shut down a young prospect. I think Kyler Phillips is really good. He's one of Sugar Sean O'Malley's training partners, and I think he wins this by decision.
Yeah, A tough fight to call, but I've also got Kyler Phillips as well. He was looking good. Then he ran into Rowling Piper. He's had some breaks. He had obviously that big break after the Mercedes Rehoboth, and then obviously returned 6 months ago against Ronnie Barcelos and beat him. So yeah, I've got Kyler Phillips. I think he gets the job done. And we've got a comment in the chat. We've got someone called. How would you pronounce that, Oscar? Go
Lido.
on.
Lido,
Lido.
that's French.
No. I hope you are well. We're talking about UFC 299. Feel free to get involved or whatever. The next one we are talking about is Michelle Pereira versus Michael Olejniczak. I won at 185 pounds, and I think it's still baffling to me how Michelle Pereira still makes 185 pounds. This guy is absolutely massive, like ridiculously big for 185 pounds. This one is a fantastic one to call. If you thought Michael Page was herky jerky, go look at Michelle Pereira's not recent fights, early fights inside the UFC. This guy was absolutely wild, confirmed. Does he beat Michelle Olejniczak? Michael, sorry. Michael versus Michelle. Who's going to win? Does he beat Michael Olejniczak?
I think Mihal is a great fighter. He used to be a light heavyweight. He was knocking guys out at light heavyweight. He moves down. And Michelle, on the other hand, he's a guy that moved up. And as you said, he's a really big guy. And he's a smart fighter. Even though he doesn't fight smart at times, he's capable of having these safe performances where he just stays outside and jabs guys. Ledoux, nice. And you asked if Tony Ferguson is in the Hall of Fame. I do think that he's a guy that will be Hall of Fame worthy, without a doubt. Former interim champion, former guy that used to be on a 12 fight winning streak. I think he's definitely capable of getting in there. Also, you could even put the Edson Barbosa fight in the Hall of Fame if you wanted. That was a great fight. And now back to this fight. I think Mihal is going to get a third round knockout in this fight. Michelle Pereira has gotten knocked out before. And there's been fights where he eats these huge shots at welterweight and he gets rocked. I think Mihal has a different kind of power. And Olejniczak, I think, also has better cardio. So I think he's going to wear him down with the body shots and then come up top and crack him in round 3 with a knockout. He's one of my underdog picks this week.
Yeah, a tough one to call. I'll go with Michelle Pereira. So maybe another told you so fight of the week. I'm going with a slight favorite anyway. A tough one to call, as you mentioned, Michal Olejniczak. Definitely, very, very, very could get the job done. He's a very, very good fighter. Next one at 205 pounds, Felipe Lins versus Iron Cutelaba. Iron Cutelaba is always entertainment. Always entertainment. He's good. He's wild. He's a wild man. At the weigh-ins, in the fight itself, let's just say he's not a very smart man. Once it gets in the cage, he just wants to swing. That's all it is. Does that play into the favor of Felipe Lins, or does Iron Cutelaba use his wrestling that we kind of see that he does have, and his ultimately that big power as well that he has?
This is a tricky one because with Cutelaba fights, if he doesn't get it done in round 1, he's in serious trouble. He's almost in mud, it seems. It was the Devin Clark fight that he just out wrestles him. And that to me was a real anomaly. That's usually not the case. Ledoux in the comments says, I want Dustin Poirier to win, but my gut tells me Saint-Denis is going to show he's worthy. Honestly, that's kind of a gut feeling I have too, but when you realize what Dustin Poirier brings to the table and what Saint-Denis has yet to prove, it's a very tricky one, but I have to go with DP there. And I do think that Felipe Lins is not the most durable guy. This guy got knocked out cold by Tanner Boser back in the day. Want to know who Cutelaba's last fight was? Tanner Boser. He destroyed Tanner Boser in round 1. So I have to believe that that Cutelaba is just going to go out there like the Hulk that he is and gets that first round knockout.
Absolutely. He's entertainment. As I mentioned, he's entertainment certified. You know what you're going to get from him. I've also got Iron Cutelaba, as you mentioned about there. Obviously, Felipe Lins, 38 years old as well. not the greatest chins, greatest of chin. I feel like he's also going to get knocked out by Nkutalaba. Next one, I'm excited to talk about Rebelis. As you mentioned earlier, if you haven't heard about this guy, get to know. As Danny White note says, I'm guaranteed this will probably be one of it as well. If you don't know, get to know. This guy is absolutely massive. He's absolutely ridiculous. His reach is 87. That is ridiculous. If I'm not mistaken, that is the highest that we've had ever in the UFC.
Yeah, that is the case here. He is a bronze medalist in the 2012 Olympics in Taekwondo, representing Cuba. And Josh Parisian, on the other hand, is one of these guys that has had a very average UFC run. He's had a lot of underwhelming performances. But one thing to note, he can wrestle. If he needs to, he can wrestle against a guy that can't wrestle. And the thing is, I don't know if Roberto Despaigne can wrestle. That's a concern. But here's the thing: the guy gets it done quick. That's what he does. His last 3 fights, I think they ended in a combined 13 seconds or something like that. He's a killer, and I think he can really humble Josh Parisian here. I think he can annihilate him. You see, 12-second knockout, 3-second knockout, 4-second knockout. Yeah, those were against complete cans, if we're being real. But I do think that Josh Parisian, when it comes to striking, probably doesn't stand too much of a chance against a guy that has this kind of power and has this kind of reach. But if Parisian gets a takedown in this fight, oh boy, you better cash out your bets, because we could see a serious fraud check.
Yeah, this fight could go so many different ways. It's incredible. I'm going with Despaigne. I'm rooting for him to get the job done. I like to see these new faces coming to the UFC, get incredible knockouts, and everyone gets behind him thinking, "Oh my God, he's the next best thing. He could beat John Jones." I just love it. I just love it. We did this when Johnny Walker went into the UFC. He came in, lit the world up in fire. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is the guy to defeat John Jones." And look what happened. But yeah, I just love this sort of stuff. And I'm actually going to pick this Spaniard. I think he gets the job done. You talked about, obviously, just Pizarro, obviously, not having the greatest UFC career. The one thing that he does have is experience. 15-7 compared to 4-0. He's going to know what to do inside the cage if he's going to slow down the fight. If he wants to, he's going to be able to dictate the tempo, I do believe. But the only problem is, can he get inside and actually dictate the tempo with a guy with an 87-inch reach advantage? Or not 87 reach, but an 87 reach. He has a total of 8-inch reach advantage. That's ridiculous, man. Yeah. The problem is Josh going to be able to get in? I'm not sure. I think he gets clipped. I think he gets knocked out.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. Let's rifle through the next couple of fights. I think they're pretty straightforward. I think Asu Amabaya is the real deal. He's got excellent jiu-jitsu. He tapped Ode Osborne. Ode Osborne beat CJ Vergara. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of striking play out here. CJ Vergara is really good on the feet. He's got nice Muay Thai, but I think he gets taken down quite easily here. And I think he gets tapped out in round 1. I think Amabaya is one of these great Kazakhstan fighters.
Yeah, completely agree. Next one, Joanne Wood. Once upon a time, she was going to go fight Valentina Shevchenko. Then she took a fight because she wasn't willing to wait around, then lost. And now here she is, the first fight of the prelims. Was that too harsh, Oscar? That seemed a bit too harsh. I think we might have lost him. Anyway, Joanne Wood, the Scottish native, she'll take on Miranda Moros, 125 pounds. This one, I am completely. I have no idea where this is going to go. Obviously, Joanne Wood, as you can see, she went on a 3-fight skid and then came back to winning ways against Laura Carolina. A fight that I feel like the UFC might have set her up to win. Obviously, Laura Carolina had lost against some Meatball Molly. So that tells you a lot. If you look at here, Tapology users, they are in favor of the Ukrainian. She is coming off two losses as well against Jennifer Maia and Karine Silva. 2 fights that, obviously Jennifer Maia, she's not inside the UFC anymore, but she was a top 5 ranked woman. Karine Silva, she's decent. She has a good prospect. So no shame in that one. This one, a tough one to call, but I'm going with Moros. I'm going with the Ukrainian. I think she gets the job done. I think she beats Oh, let's go, Sean O'Malley. Yes, Woods MMA, an absolute fantastic channel. By the way, make sure you go check him out. He did some great videos. Very. I love the style that he does it. I think I've messaged you on Instagram. Make sure you reply. But yeah, fantastic. Joanne Wood though against Moros. Tough one to call, but I'm picking Ukrainian. I think she gets it done. I think if you look at Joanne Wood, slowed down a lot as of late. I think it's a tough one. It's a tough one for her to get back to it. We're not even go back to back wins. Anyway, I'm trying to wait for Oscar. I'm hoping he comes back in so we can get his pick anyway. But yeah, let's see how happens. Here he is, finally. Oscar, were you leaving me hanging there?
Yeah, sorry about that. My laptop died on me out of nowhere. What I was gonna say is that Joanne Wood, she may have lost the first fight, but I do think that Moreau's, she's also on the decline as well. A lot of people are not mentioning that either. I don't think she's too far from retiring, if you ask me. Wood, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure she said this was her last fight, if not one of her last fights. So that's not great to hear usually, but I do think at the end of the day, she is the better striker in this fight. The reason that Morose won the first fight was because she got a takedown and she submitted her. I'm sure Wood is working on her submission defense. Her husband is her coach, the guy that runs what's the gym, Syndicate MMA. So yeah, I do think that she might show up with better submission defense this time and win a close decision on the feet.
Yeah, so I got Moros in that fight as well. So I'm going with the Ukrainian. You're going with the Scottish. Be a good fight, though. I'm looking forward to it. A good way to kick off the card. Most likely a finish as well. As you mentioned, Moros has got fantastic submission skills. So does Wood. So interesting to see how it goes down. And obviously, we'll talk about the rest of the card. Fantastic. We're going to have a great night. UFC 299. Obviously, Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera in the main event. We've spoke about it. We're both going with Sean O'Malley. I feel like he's going to look good. I feel like he's going to do it in style. Fantastic. Can't wait. It's going to be a great night of fights. Oscar, that pretty much wraps it up.
Yeah, there's a lot to love this weekend. UFC 299, I think, actually could be the most stacked card of the year. It's very debatable if 300 is more stacked, but I really believe that this is going to be one of those nights that remind us why we watch MMA, why we're obsessed with it, because this thing is stacked with a lot of hungry fighters. As Ledoux in the comments mentioned that Benoit Saint-Denis is a hungry guy. I do think that Benoit Saint-Denis is going to give everything he has in there, but let's see if Poirier is still in the form necessary to remain at the top. It's a major question, and I do think that's going to end up being the fight of the night.
Yeah, definitely, completely agree. It's gonna be a fantastic fight. Looking forward to it. Yeah, make sure you enjoy the fights this weekend, and make sure you catch us next week as we've got Ty Vasa and Ty Bora in the main event. I talked about the heavyweight main events at the Apex, and look, we've got another one. Surprise, surprise! Here we are. Ty Vasa versus Marcin Tybura in the main event. Kenny Njoku versus Owen St. Preux. Wow, what a throwback over St. Preux is. Mike Davis, Pani Kinziad, Joshua Kulabau, good to see him fighting. He's always entertainment. Brian Battle, Corey McKenna. A few good fights. Oh, Gerald Mershaw versus Brian Barberena. Oh, yes. What's your favorite fight that you're looking forward to? Or not this week, but next week?
I do think that Brian Battle versus Anja Lusa is a great fight. I really like that fight. Those guys are probably going to try to strike on the feet, but I think Brian Battle has a way better skill set on the ground. Brian Battle is a great fighter, won the Ultimate Fighter for Team Ortega back in the day. No, it was Team Volkanovski he won it for. And I do think that he's going to continue to climb the ranks, but not the most stacked card. But as I said, they saved all the fights for this Saturday. They could have spread it around if they wanted to, but they just wanted to spoil us for one night. That's what they're doing.
And we deserve it. We deserve it 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much it. That wraps up the episode. I appreciate everyone coming into the chat, dropping their comments. It means a lot. It's great to have you in. Make sure you catch us next week. Same time, usually about 6 p.m. UK time. Catch us next week as we talk about what we just spoke about there. Fight night. It's gonna be a great one. And also we get a recap UFC 299. We get to talk about everything that happened on the weekend. So make sure you catch us next week, and we'll see you there. A very thank you, a very goodbye, and have a good weekend, everyone.